Well, former President Trump is under fire. He's expected to travel to New York City today ahead of his arraignment in Manhattan Tuesday. Again, the first ever president to be indicted, to be criminally charged. This is dominating headlines, cable news coverage over the weekend and last week. So many people making arguments over the strength of the case or the lack thereof. For more on this, let's bring in media critic Steve Krakauer, host of the Fourth Watch podcast. Hello. I know you've got a book out. Uncovered,
Yes.
How the Media Got Cozy with Power, Abandoned Its Principles, and Lost the People is out now. My goodness, I'm glad I'm not included in that number.
Yes. Well, it's funny because a lot of that book, which tracks the media from 2015 through about 2022, a lot of it is about Donald Trump and the way that he had an effect on the corporate media during that time, during his run and his presidency and the subsequent time after that led to censorship and suppression. Well, here we go again.
Here we go again.
Yes, exactly.
It's never going to end because as much as this man is hated, and there are people who will publicly, in media, confess that they hate him or don't like him or don't think he's worth his salt, it's like those same people are waiting with bated breath for every single piece of news we can get out of this particular story. For his mugshot, you say the media is addicted to Trump. Is that really what it is, or are they addicted to hating Trump?
I think it's a really deep-seated psychological love-hate relationship. I describe it as a sadomasochistic relationship.
Ugh.
There's pain and pleasure happening here between the Donald Trump and the media, and frankly, it goes both ways. I think that Donald Trump loves and hates the media as well, and he has, frankly, for decades. You look back in the 1980s at his book, The Art of the Deal. It talks about his relationship with the media even back then, long before the politics side. This has been going on for a very, very long time, and yes, it's business on some level also. He was great for business during the Trump years, during the Trump presidency, with clicks and with views.
He's great for business now.
Exactly. And so I think that there's a huge element of that. But then I also do think that it's personal in a lot of ways. Look, he became this antagonist to the media and embraced that role.
Wait. I gotta rewind because this is so important to me. I think that there are a lot of people who would say he doesn't punch first, he counter punches. I was having a conversation with somebody this weekend that if you have a conversation with him, he's like this mild-mannered man, then you punch, he's going to go for the jugular. Do you really think that he enjoys being attacked?
I do. I think, this really dovetails perfectly with what's happening here over the next 24 hours as this indictment watch, this mugshot watch is going on, because I think that you talk about counterpunch. Donald Trump is going to use this particular indictment. And again, there are other cases out there that may be more severe, but this one is not. He's going to use this to his advantage. This is his version of a counterpunch, and he's going to completely embrace this. He's already been truth socialing it out this morning. He's going to be heading up to New York, getting that mugshot, and then flying back down to Mar-a-Lago for a campaign speech. And he's going to use this to his advantage, certainly during the GOP primary. And the media is playing right along with it because they are going to shine that spotlight on him all over again, make him the center of the universe, which is exactly where he wants to be, and the exact sort of thing that will help him as he begins his run during this year and the next year as he runs for office again.
Do you think that people are going to get Trump fatigue, though? I mean, there are a lot of even New Yorkers who are so sick and tired of hearing this story. It's like, can we please talk about how crime is so much worse here in New York City? Can we please talk about how, we have police officers resigning or quitting by the hundreds or if not thousands in New York City? Can we get over this?
Yes, I think that the Trump fatigue that you talk about is something that I'm someone who lives in Dallas. I think this was present over the last 7 years during his whole presidency. And yet that's not where the corporate media turned their attention. They didn't listen to those in the country that felt this Trump fatigue because they didn't have it. They embraced it. And so no, I think that absolutely, just like the last time, there will be a large portion of the country that is disinterested in making politics and Donald Trump the center of our cultural conversation. And yet that will not change what will happen over the next weeks and months ahead. He will be once again the center of attention. And again, I think the indictment is just the beginning of what will be this next phase, the season 2 of the Trump presidency as he runs for office all over again.
I need an itty-bitty answer for this one because we got to get to our commercial. But for media fatigue, do you think that people are sick and tired of how the media treats this particular storyline? Because we do have some responsibility as storytellers.
Yes, the short answer is yes. We see, as I lay out and uncovered, poll after poll, trust in the media is at record lows. And I think this contributes to it. I think that this focus on something that is less important to people's everyday lives is part of what is driving the lack of trust that the public has in the corporate press.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.